Are you looking to become a better real estate investor? Then hang on, because you're about to experience another episode of the world's most popular real estate podcast, the BiggerPockets Podcast. But before we get to this week's show, I wanted to invite you to become part of our community, BiggerPockets.com, the real estate investing social network. The membership is free, and you'll instantly gain access to networking opportunities, educational content, investor tools, and more. Sign up now and get a free copy of our book, The Ultimate Beginner's Guide to Real Estate Investing, read by hundreds of thousands of budding entrepreneurs. Just click this link right here, or just head to BiggerPockets.com. With that, let's get to the show.
This is the BiggerPockets Podcast, show 69.
You're listening to BiggerPockets Radio, simplifying real estate for investors large and small. If you're here looking to learn about real estate investing without all the hype, you're in the right place. Stay tuned and be sure to join the millions of others who have benefited from BiggerPockets.com, your home for real estate investing online.
Hey, what's going on, everybody? This is Josh Dorkin, host of the BiggerPockets Podcast, here with Brandon Turner in the flesh. What's going on, Brandon?
Hey, what's going on, everyone? This is Brandon Turner, co-host of the BiggerPockets Podcast, here with Josh. How you doing?
Are you mocking me?
I don't mock. How you doing?
Such a nice guy. Such a nice guy. I'm good, man. I'm good. Excited about the warming weather. You know, summer's almost here. Kids are about to get out of school. Things are going well.
You're looking forward to your kids getting out of school.
Yeah, why not? Why wouldn't I?
Because you're gonna have them coloring all over the walls again.
My kids don't climb on the walls. I don't.
I said coloring, different crayons.
Oh,
right?
coloring.
Yeah,
you
know.
Yeah.
Yeah, we talk about that in the show later. That'll make more sense.
Well, whatever. We'll deal with it later. No, I'm excited, man. So looking forward to the warming period here.
Good for you. Good for you. I got 6 more months till that hits Washington.
I don't think it ever hits Washington.
I don't think so.
Yeah, we got to get you out of there.
I don't know. I like my green, unlike your brown there in the middle of the country. I'll live with it. Anyway, let's go to the quick tip before people leave our show.
Anyone bored yet? All right, guys. So today's quick tip, check it out. In the forums, if you read a really good thread or if you read a post from somebody that's really valuable, please go ahead and click the vote button to let the person know that it was good. Clicking the vote is kind of like a like button on Facebook, and it makes people feel good. They get an email saying that somebody thought it was worthwhile. So please go ahead and do it. Ultimately, what it does is it tells our little computer algorithms that this person is providing value to the community. So get out there and acknowledge those folks who are putting in the efforts.
Yep.
So that's today's quick tip.
Quick tip. All right.
I want to let people know this is show 69 of the BiggerPockets Podcast, and they can check out the show notes at biggerpockets.com/show 69. So if you have any questions or want to refer to any of the stuff that we talk about, you could do that on the show notes. Also, if you're a listener and have not yet rated or reviewed the show, please jump on iTunes and go ahead and do that. It does help spread the word. All right, guys. So let me bring on our guest, Mr. Brandon Krieg. Brandon is a wholesaler and flipper primarily. We're going to talk about a lot of cool stuff. We're going to talk about knowing when to quit your job and actually making that happen. We're going to talk about some unique marketing strategies that I might guess most investors listening aren't currently doing. So you'll definitely want to hang around for that. And of course, remember, jump in and check out the show notes that I had mentioned before. Brandon's a smart, savvy guy. He's a good marketer. And no matter what your strategy or focus is, definitely want to check it out. So with that, why don't we bring him on? All right, Brandon, welcome to the show, man. Good to have you here. And I'm not talking about Turner. I'm talking about the new guy, Krieg.
Hey, I'm very, very happy to be here. It's beautiful, beautiful day here on the lake. So it's awesome to be talking to you guys.
Nice. Beautiful day on the lake. What lake is that?
It's called Long Lake. It's in a very small town called Delton, Michigan. I will personally send you a $50 gift card if you can actually identify that on a map. So, awesome.
Yes, another rural guy, right?
Another Michigan guy. Fabulous.
Yeah,
we've had a number of Michigan guys.
We have.
Yeah, this is our first Brandon, though, we've ever had. A few weeks ago, we had another Josh. So today we're going to complicate things.
Shouldn't be confusing at all.
No, not at all. Not at all. Excited. Yeah, very cool. All right, well, why don't we get to your story and kind of hear how you got started and where you came from? So I guess why don't we start very beginning? How did you get into real estate? Like, what were you doing before, and how'd you get into it?
Sure. Well, real estate for me really has always been about freedom. Whether for me that was a combination of, living the life that I wanted with financial freedom, and then as I got older and met my wife, and we started talking, that extended. It got to a bigger definition. Became for the whole family, much more than just about myself.
So really quick. I mean, I don't think we've ever actually asked this, but what does that mean to you? What does financial freedom actually mean to you?
Yeah, what financial freedom for me means the ability to do what I want to do when I want to do it in the way that I want to do it, if that makes sense. And I'm using a lot of I's, but again, this has become very much a we at this point with my wife and I. But that could mean taking a trip, going to Italy and staying there for 2 months, and that being fine. It could mean not doing any of those things at all. It could mean going to my future daughter's soccer games and not having to worry about coaching and being late to a business meeting or something like that afterwards. It's really just the opportunity to do what we want rather than being constricted to a time frame.
Well, and without worrying about money, ultimately.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, you could do that and, sleep on a piece of cardboard. And, it's not exactly it either. So
it's not what you're looking for, right?
Yeah, real estate's it seemed to me one of those few things that could actually get you both of those in the same way or down the same path.
Yeah. And how did you figure that out? I mean, I think, those people who aren't familiar with real estate may not have that realization, right? They're like, yeah, well, what do I do? I want freedom. How do I find it? So how'd you decide that real estate was the path?
Well, I actually started, I think my path down this started in high school, just picking up random books from my parents' basement. The Millionaire Next Door or Lead the Field or one of the Rich Dad, Poor Dad books that I bought from a library book sale, So I just started reading all these different things, and I think I was drawn to them because I always felt like I've been just a little bit different than a lot of the people around me. And I think once I really started getting into it.
There's a cure for that, by the way.
Once I really started getting into it, I realized there's so much that you can do with real estate. I mean, you can make it a job where you're very active and doing very well with things like flipping, all of that, or you can take it very passively. Not quite as passively as you'd like, probably, but with, buying, owning houses and getting all those wonderful advantages. So once I started in investigating real estate versus stocks versus running your own business, which I've also done and is actually extremely exhausting as anybody who's ever done it. Yeah. Looking at all these different ways, it just seemed like real estate had the best opportunity to grow and really both financially and in terms of freedom really provided the best avenue.
Nice.
Right on.
One thing, we always ask that question at the end of the show, which we'll ask later, about what sets apart successful people. But I just wanted to point out that, what I've noticed time and time again on the show, when we ask people how you got started, is I would say 90 to 95% of everyone started with a book of some kind, like reading, right? Like
definitely.
Reading is just so important that I don't know what it does, but when you're reading a book, like when I think of my life, all the greatest times of growth, where I've grown the most as a person, have been in times where I read a lot. And
definitely.
So I think it's very important just to
reading is fundamental.
Reading is fundamental. So if you are somebody who doesn't ever read and you want to get into real estate, I think that's something that you want to do is start reading.
Another alternative actually to reading, if you're really just not a reader, if it's really just not your thing. Somewhat recently, actually, I got into more audiobooks because I find myself living in Delton, Michigan, which is between Grand Rapids and Kalamazoo on the west side of the state. Between those two, I do a lot of driving to actually go to houses and work on rehabs and things like that. So with that, with audiobooks, with podcasts like we've got, you can actually get a lot of that advantage, even if you don't have time to sit down and do it. So audiobooks of these great classics that everyone always brings up on the show is a really good way to go, I think.
Nice. There you go. All right. Moving on from the Captain Obvious questions that Brandon decided to throw at you. What do you do, man? What's your path in real estate? What do you focus on?
Well, the beginning of the path was a quote from one of the Jim Collins books was "Fire bullets, then cannonballs." I think it's from the newest one. But the bullets were everything. It was seller financing, wholesaling, rehabbing, mobile homes, really whatever I could do, whatever I could get a foothold in, whatever I could start to figure out, I would try, which is good in a lot of ways. I figured out a lot of what I like and don't like and all of that. But most recently, I've really settled into rehabbing homes, so buying them, fixing them, and selling them, and also wholesaling things. So I do a lot of direct marketing, so I kick those other ones back to other people.
So your pursuit of financial freedom has found you working a job for yourself.
Yes, it has. So for me, that path is process. It's not like in 6 months I could say, hey, okay, sweet, I don't have to work anymore. Awesome.
Right.
I mean, if somebody has pulled it off, kudos, and I want to hear them on the next podcast. That would be
me
awesome.
too. I want to hear the guy on the podcast who got rich in 6 months with that system. Like, I swear, I would kill to hear that.
Yeah.
Here's my
not
real
going to
story.
find them. Crickets. But
My real story is there was a pop-up ad that came up and it said, be rich with 4 hours a week of work in 60 days. And I clicked on it and it totally worked. And now I don't have to do anything.
Awesome.
It's an amazing story. Really.
Great story. That's
All right. So you've done all these different things, right? You bounced around. You've tried all these paths. When did you start in real estate? I mean, it's pretty recent, right?
Yeah, it is pretty recent. I sort of fiddled before then. I had another company and another couple of companies actually before I really got into real estate, and that really took up a lot of my nights and weekends before. So it wasn't until the latest one stopped happening that I was able to really dig in, and that was only about 2 years ago.
Okay,
a little less actually.
So 2 years ago or less, you jump in. And how many deals have you done since then? Because I know you've been busy.
Yeah, a little bit over a dozen. I've been involved in some way. So I am not I've done 200 deals and can tell you how everything works, but it's good progress so far.
That's what I love about the podcast is that we interview those guys once in a while that have done 200, 300, 500 deals. And then we do the guys that have done a dozen deals. And I think the insight that we get from both is extremely beneficial because the guys who are doing 200 or 300 deals don't remember necessarily, what it was like to do the first and the second and the third. And that's what we want to talk about today is how do you do that first and second and third deal? So speaking of that, let's go to that. I mean, what was your very first deal? What did it look like?
First deal was, I did probably, I would say hundreds of things that didn't work. A lot of which I just started with no marketing budget and found, tried to call every person on Craigslist saying, hey, you've got a house for sale. Sweet. Let me take a look at it. I'll make you an offer. So while extremely unproductive, very inefficient, I did learn a lot and got really comfortable talking to people.
And that's actually really important. I mean, I'm terrible at that because I never did that. Like I never cold called. I've never done that in my life. So
it's brutal. So it's a hard knock school of life. So when I first started, I was really looking for seller financing deals. That was sort of the first thing that I really dove into and started looking. And as it ended up, my first deal ended up being a rehab actually. Okay. And it worked out really well. So that first one was a tax sale. A woman owned the place free and clear, but owned back taxes and was going to lose it to the local government in 3 days when she talked to me, which was actually a real shame because had she gotten in touch with me even a few weeks before, there was any number of things we could have done. So we ended up getting this condo. It's a 2-bedroom condo in Clinton, Michigan, not Clinton Township. They're two different things. And just this little place. And, I know people say, paint and carpet rehab. It wasn't quite there, but it's about as close as I've realistically seen. I mean, the woman had smoked a lot. She was a chain smoker for probably 10 years. So, a lot of cleanup and fixing, but really very minor things. And I learned so much from that deal. It was crazy.
So first, how did you find the deal?
Sure. First, it was direct marketing. By that point, I had been sick of digging in and cold calling people for a while. Yeah. So I think that one was from, I do a whole lot of direct marketing. So I believe that one was from Adwords, from Google, I think, if I'm remembering specifically.
Okay. And we could talk more about the different direct marketing stuff that you do. So you got this deal, and it's this woman who's going to lose her house in 3 days, right?
Yep.
What happened? I mean, you said there's more you could have done had you had more time.
Sure.
So what could you have done had you had more time? And ultimately, what did you end up doing to actually get the deal?
Sure. Well, I think having had more time, I wish actually I would have been able to do more for her, because this being the first one that I actually closed on, I had few options and a lack of knowledge really of what to do. So what I could have done probably was investigate more options, get her more financing, look into creative financing, all these different things, start the process, get an extension, something like that to actually get her more than we ended up getting her. But in the end, we basically just squared it away with taxes and helped her with a little bit of moving money to get out. So I ended up partnering with a friend, very good friend of mine, and we split the deal 50-50. He came in and provided the funding for it, and we both dug in and fixed it up and ended up doing pretty well on it. So
Nice. Well, let's talk about that a little bit, the partnership thing.
Yeah.
You recommend that, I would assume, like that because it worked out well?
I do, actually. I think that I have the advantage of having a very great group of friends and family that I've known. These are friends that I've known since we were 10 years old, I think. And so we trust each other like family. And so working with somebody like that, where you've been through the ups and downs already, you've been through the rough patches and dealt with it and come through on the other side. If you can find a relationship like that, then it's actually worked out for me every time that I've done it. So friends and family can be a really great resource cool. If you have a strong relationship.
So, and I may have dozed off for a second here, but
I'm kind of boring. I ramble a little bit.
Yeah, it's all good. No, I got really excited because I noticed I'm on a call with Brandon, and they're both sitting with drum kits behind them.
Yes.
So
yes,
I was like, I got wowed by this weird thing.
Yeah,
all right,
punk rock.
Yeah, there you go. So tell me, how did you end up structuring this partnership on this first deal?
Sure. Actually, this is something I wouldn't really recommend. Looking back on it, it probably makes sense to actually have a written agreement. But because we had 3 days.
Come on. Who needs to write?
Who needs actually to lay things out all the way? So basically, I said he had contacted me before, and we had talked about some potential deals that had ended up falling through bad inspections or whatever. And he had said he really wanted to do it. So I called him and said, okay, man, we got 3 days. If you want in, here's what we got. So I went through over, and he showed up to closing 3 days later. The title company did an amazing job pulling everything, all the records, getting everything together. And we closed on the house. And as we're driving to it, he's like, man, I must trust you a lot, considering I've never even seen this place and about 10 pictures of it. And I just bought a house. So, and then we drove over there, figured out a plan, and went. So we actually never even had a structured agreement. It was all just handshake deals and knowing each other well enough where we could pull that off. Yeah. I don't recommend – I mean, it worked out fine. Again, it was all fine. But, if you're looking for recommendations, just even if it's basic, draft something up because, I mean – it could have turned south in 100 ways. I'm sure that a lot of people could have pointed out, but yeah.
Hey, really quick. So on the tax sale, the person didn't pay taxes, and ultimately the government's going to take this thing away from them. Correct.
Correct.
So what are you acquiring the property for the full price of the property, or are you acquiring the property for what's owed? Tell us how that works exactly.
Sure. So she owned the property free and clear by this point. She had 3 years of back taxes on the place, which for this place, again, and that was the line, I looked at all the documentation here in Michigan. They said, basically, if you're not paid by April 1st, you're done. We're taking the place, no recourse, no nothing. It's gone. So looking at that, we paid. So with the title company, we coordinated it. So we would bring a check for the remainder of the taxes, and then plus a little bit of moving money, basic $500 or $1,000, something like that, for the woman to be able to move in with some family that she had been wanting to move into. with already. And then they closed it all up. Taxes got paid off, and then it got put in our name.
So
Nice.
she walked away, ultimately getting out. Instead of losing it completely, she got into the place. I mean, the benefit to her was you got her into the property that she needed to move into.
Yes, she had been really stuck and really wanted to get out, but and she was like, I don't want the police to come to my house, but I don't even have enough money to make it to my sister's place. Yeah. So we were able to get her there at least.
All right.
Wish we could have done more. But.
So what was the amount in back taxes owed, and what's the property worth today? Or what did you turn it over? It sounds like you flipped it. So what'd you flip it for?
Yeah. The total purchase price was $6,500 on the property. And that was the back taxes and what we gave to her. And we ended up selling it. It was on the market for 2 days, and we sold it for $37,000.
Nice. And you said it was basically paint and carpet. Do you remember how much total you put into it?
I believe $4,300 in the end.
That's a nice flip.
That is a nice flip. And that was found through direct mail marketing, yeah?
Yep, direct marketing. Absolutely.
Right on.
Very good.
Awesome. Cool. All right. So that's not a bad start.
Oh yeah, that's start is
and then it went downhill.
And then it all went terrible. No, it actually, that was really nice. Even while that one was getting fixed up, other deals started to materialize and come into play. And then I was able to do, some other things too.
Well, let's talk about that. Like, so what came next? I mean, was it more flips, or you said you do wholesaling and you've done some?
Yeah. So I think about 5 or 6 days after that closing, I got a lead for a mobile home. I think that was the next one. And with mobile homes, I had always said, okay, it's not really something I do. I know it's a specialized field. I'm not really comfortable with it. I can't really help you. Sorry, something along those lines to people that would contact me with those leads through direct marketing.
I got one the other day that I said that exact same thing to. Somebody called. I have a Facebook ad going right now, and somebody called on it. I'm like, I don't even know what to deal with. I
don't even know what to do.
Yeah. Like what?
And so I stopped. I'm all hyped up on confidence. I just closed my first one. 5 days later, better do a second. Get all excited. And so I realized, I was like, okay, well, look at it this way. If this were my sister, if this were my cousin, if this were my uncle, and they were stuck in this situation, what would I try to do? Somebody says, hey, I hear you do real estate. Can you help me try to figure something out? What would I do? So it was a very, very simple method. I just Googled whatever terms I would use to sell a mobile home, sell my mobile home fast, whatever. And I found a few people here in Michigan that do deal with mobile homes regularly. And I just gave them a call. I said, look, I've got this lead. It came through. It seems to be pretty good, but granted, I don't know very much about mobile homes. So what would you do in this situation? And they said, well, you found the lead, so why don't you just get it under contract and I'll buy it from you. And he's like, do you have any pictures? Shot him over pictures. He's like, yeah, if you price it about there, we should do okay on it. So signed it up, and a few days later I had the first mobile home wholesale, which was an interesting one.
Nice.
What was interesting about it?
It was so quick and easy. I think we did it on the hood of somebody's car. I mean, and just figuring out like, wow, had I actually thought and stopped and said, okay, why don't I actually try to do something with this 6 months ago? I probably could have done this 5 times in the interim.
Yeah. Well, you said 2 really interesting things I want to touch on there. First was that you said earlier, when you talked to that person, you asked yourself, like, if this was my sister, brother, uncle, aunt, what would how would I help them? And I love that. I've never heard anybody say that before, but if you think of real estate like that as I'm helping this person, their family, how would I help them if I could, even if I don't make, even thinking like, what if I don't make a profit? How do I help them? If you approach it like that, I think that's great. And I think if more investors did that, we'd have a lot, better name in the industry. That there's too many people that just think, how do I get the most money? Yeah, what's in it for me? How do I destroy this person the fastest I can?
I'm going to disagree for a second there because, sure. I know we've talked to a lot of people in this podcast, and I think the folks that I deem to be credible, that we've met, talked to, that we link up with a lot, the people who have sustainable businesses, I think have that approach.
I think so too. Yeah.
I think if you're going to take I'm going to take advantage of people approach, I don't know. I kind of feel like your lifeline in the business isn't going to be as long because at some point it's going to catch back up with you.
I 100% agree. I think that, if you, first of all, to me, that all starts with honesty, with somebody. That's with, colleagues that you're working with. It's with, your family and friends. Where are you? I feel like one of the issues, I think, is there's a whole lot of fake it till you make it, which has in some ways a good benefit. I think the negative part is when people start inflating everything too much, or they make promises they can't keep, and then end up just leaving somebody, stuck in the mud. And so I made a promise to not do that a long time ago, and I think it's really helped a lot.
Yeah,
that's great.
Hey, the second thing you said that was really interesting that I think we should touch on is that you said, like, had you known it would be that easy, you could have probably done a lot more deals before that, right? So
yeah, absolutely.
And I mean, that's kind of convicting for me too. Like I said, I got that lead for a mobile home, and I'm like, I don't know, whatever. It's not my thing. I don't do mobile homes. So I just kind of left it alone. I'm like, now I'm thinking, man, I should have at least made a couple phone calls. Like, who's buying? That's a great tip. Go on Google, search for, find the guys that are trying to rank for those terms of we buy mobile homes fast or whatever. And that's all.
And if you go on Google, or Bing if you're a Microsoft person, or I don't care, whatever.
Or a BiggerPockets.
It's the marketplace, I hear. Yeah, that's actually a really great place. I don't mean to, I hope I'm not downplaying that at all.
No, I'm just saying in case the listeners don't know who they're listening to here. I mean,
If you go on there, BiggerPockets is a great example. You see, the people that are there, that if you have a conversation with somebody, or, you find that they're putting money into their marketing, and they're on BiggerPockets and they're making regular forum posts and they're helping people out, you can tell that they're serious about their business. And so if you can hook up with people that are serious about whatever it is, anything you either want to learn or get help with, whether it be mobile homes, like in this case, or flip, you can really, things like BiggerPockets, it really helps you identify who those people are, and then you'll get really good advice instead of, just only give me 30 grand and then I'll give you some advice.
Well, even on the deal side, right? I mean, you're looking for mobile home guy. You just, you can actually do a search and find, mobile home Michigan and figure out who does it and link up with those people. But no, listen, I mean, it's a good point. And I liked what you said before about, the credibility aspect. I mean, it's something that I push and have pushed kind of from day one with the site is, I think, and I think we as a community need to strive to do better and be better representatives of ourselves, so to speak. And I love that, I love talking to people who are doing it. I hate when I talk to somebody and I'm like, oh, I like this guy, man, but he is shady. It's always disappointing to me because I'm like, people are going to look up to him. He's smart, but he runs his business in a way that's not quite on the up and up.
Yeah,
and it's going to make us all look kind of dirty.
I think that getting into a different side of it a little bit is if you actually get into wholesaling a little bit, there's all kinds of gray areas with wholesaling. Where you can do things, honestly and straightforward, or you can do them a little on the shady side. Yeah. And I mean, to me, it's no contest. If you're not being straight with people, then you're not doing it the right way.
Gotcha. All right, so we got this wholesale deal that fell in your lap that you did on the hood of a car. Yeah. And so the first two deals are you're on a roll here, man. It's easy. Yeah. Life is good. and then was there a brick wall moment? Did you hit any kind of trials and tribulations with any of these deals as you're kind of experimenting and trying to learn your way?
Definitely. I think I have more brick walls than slip and slides. That's for sure. So the first one, I was so excited. I remember this was the first deal that I successfully got under contract. Remember I started about 2 years ago. This was in December. So 12/12/12 was the day we got this thing, as it always sticks out in my head. Nice. And get this thing, and it looks great. Everything's awesome. And get this inspector to come in. And I want this thing so bad. I want it to work. I have been essentially doing this nights and weekends, getting home at 5:30, 6 o'clock, calling people, going, spending money on gas I don't really have, trying to get these deals, running into it. And the inspector says, I mean, you can do it if you want, but you're gonna fall down flat on your face. So having those moments, and even right before that first rehab came in, getting to that spot where it was just so dark. I remember sitting there with my wife one night and just being like, what am I doing? Like, I have now been doing this for months and doing it right. I mean, doing marketing, going hard, following up with people, tons of leads, all kinds of stuff. Am I just awful? I mean, what is wrong with me? Why can't I make this work?
Yeah.
So that was rough.
Interesting. Well, I don't think you're alone with that. And for the people listening, if you're in that situation where you're out there and you're struggling and you're trying to do marketing and you're trying to find deals and you set criteria and you're just either not finding deals or you're finding deals and you're talking to people and it's not working out, it could be incredibly frustrating. So what did you do, to take a riff on Brandon's question about, what do successful investors do? What did you do to kind of get you over the mental hump and, to avoid just giving up? Because it would have been real easy to say, you know what, I put 6 months in, I haven't gotten anywhere. It's a wrap.
Oh, it would have been incredibly easy. Like, yeah. I really wanted to do it, honestly.
Yeah. Oh, sure. Yeah, makes sense.
And, but I think the first thing is I have a fantastic support system. I mean, my wife throughout this has been just incredible. I mean, always so supportive, but realistic at the same time. So that was a huge help. And honestly, I think a big thing with me is for a while now, I've really tried to flood myself with positive messages, whether that be books, tapes. It's a combination of really eliminating a lot of negative. Do they make tapes still? Yeah, I think so. Well, I had a 91 Toyota pickup, and that thing didn't have AC, but it had a tape player, so I rocked the heck out of Lead the Field. Earl Nightingale, 80s stuff. So, nice. But yeah, just so, basically anything that I could get my hands on, any kind of, I mean, now these books are common, not that I found this community. Before I found it, I just was sort of doing this all on my own. Positive thinking books, good movies. I was reading Game of Thrones and I love reading it, but I actually stopped myself because I realized that it was really kind of bumming me out the whole time that I was reading it.
Nice.
That is like the most depressing books. I've read every one.
I know.
Yeah,
I
terribly
love them,
depressing.
But they're like awful, so yep. I was like, you know what, I can't handle this right now. So basically to push through, another really important thing was I actually looked at it really logically. I was doing a job which was fine and good and great people that I was working with, but it wasn't what I wanted to do. And so logically I thought, well, what happens if you quit? You just stay where you're at, or you stay on this track that goes nowhere you want to be. So what's the point of quitting almost? It's a strange phrase, but what's the point? If staying what you're doing and not continuing on gets you somewhere that you don't want to be, then why quit? Because at least if you don't quit, you have a chance to get where you want to be rather than being guaranteed to get somewhere that you don't like.
Yep. I have no idea what you just said.
All right, let me try to boil it down.
No, listen. No, you're saying, just kind of get out there. I mean, you got to take a chance at some point, right?
And it's really, for me, I had to use logic to overcome it. It was like, well, let's look at the pros and cons here. If I quit, I don't get it, so and I won't be happy with it. So I might as well keep going. And really,
your logic didn't make any damn sense to me. However, if it worked for you, then that's great. All right. So are you a full-time investor or?
I am. Yes, I am. It's a very fun thing, and things speed up immensely when you can actually make it full-time.
Yeah. Now, did you just quit your job then to get into the investing thing, or were you doing it while you were working and then at some point you said, all right, I'm starting to do okay, let me get out?
Yeah, it's the second one. I had been working. I was working a full-time job, and it was nights and weekends for a little bit over a year. My wife was actually doing a master's program, and she found a job over here in Kalamazoo, Michigan, which is about 2 hours from where we had been living in Ann Arbor. So I wasn't able to actually keep the job that I was going to have anyway. So it was almost this natural transition of, well, let's give it a try. I have to find a new job anyway. So let's dig in, go for it. I've already had, some good successes. Let's make a jump. So my wife and I agreed, we'll try this for 3 months. And if you don't have enough momentum going, then, we'll figure something else out, find another job, do something else. But fortunately, the momentum caught, and I'm able to keep doing it. So it's excellent.
Cool. What do you think? Like, what would be your suggestion for somebody who wants to know when the right time to quit their job is? Like, when should somebody say, okay, I'm quitting, I'm full time now? How prepared do they have to be?
I would say it would definitely help to have some deals under your belt. I think that number is really going to vary per person. Some people will feel comfortable with 2 or 3. Some people will only feel comfortable with 10, 20. And that's really up to your personal comfort level. For me, the stars kind of aligned on it. But in turning it, trying to get it to somebody else, it's, also realize that the lights are never all going to be green. If you're trying to get from Michigan to San Diego, you're never going to have all green lights the way. So at some point, if this is something that you're committed to and you really want to do it, you just have to make a leap. On the flip side, I would say just make sure you're not going to throw your family into the ditch to do it. Yeah. So we were at a good place where we had enough savings, put away where we could be fine. And we knew that my wife was walking into a job, so we wouldn't be really up the creek without a paddle if it didn't go well. It did go well, but we had enough of a safety net to make that work.
Yeah, definitely. Well, I think that's really good advice. I mean, I think a lot of people struggle with when to quit your job and when not to. I know I quit my job 3 times, 2 times, something like that. I mean,
Sure.
even now I'm at BiggerPockets because, I don't know. I like working a job, I guess, more than I like not working a job. But
I was getting worried there. I was wondering if you were about to quit your job again.
No, I mean, like I quit it the last time. I said I'm never gonna have a day job again. And then I did real estate, and then I got enough, cash flow to not have to work or even have to invest in real estate anymore. And I was like, well, now what do? I'm bored to death. So I mean, your life changes as you go through it, and it definitely changed for me a lot in the last couple of years. So let's move on. Enough about me, but we want to talk about marketing.
Let's talk about me.
No, we're not going to talk about Josh either. We want to talk about your marketing, what you do, how you're getting leads. You mentioned direct mail. You mentioned Adwords. I'd love to cover both those things and then whatever else you want to share. So why don't we start with Adwords? What is it and how do you use it?
Great. Adwords is it's only one variation of pay-per-click marketing. There's a lot of variations on it. I know there's AdWords, there's Facebook ads, there's Bing ads, there's Yahoo, there's paid placement on any number of good sites going where people are going that need to sell their houses. The basic concept is you market to whatever you're looking for. If you're looking for people that have a lot of equity, try to find those terms, and you're trying to get these people to click on your link to come to your website to give you their information. From that, you take that lead and follow up.
Nice. So what does that cost? I mean, presumably, well, I know the answer to the question, but I'll still ask it. Obviously it's going to vary depending upon the term. And how does that price vary? Is it auction system?
Yeah, it's the one that I use primarily is Google AdWords. I have heard very good things about other things, Yellow Pages, lots of other good systems that work for people. But it is an auction-based system, so based on the individual keyword, it will vary. Some keywords are super cheap, 5 cents, 10 cents, honestly, for a click. Other ones are super expensive, $20 for a click, $30 for a click, something like that. So that really comes down to you. How do you want to compete? Do you want to compete on the long tail, to use a marketing term, or do you want to, jump in there and fight with the big dogs on house? And then you're gonna, then you're gonna pay a lot for each click.
Yeah, yeah. So presumably, we do talk a lot about the direct mail stuff, and I don't think we've done enough on the show about the online marketing stuff.
Sure.
What type of funnel are you typically trying to create there? In other words, for those people who don't understand what I'm saying, obviously you're going to put out a bunch of advertising, you're going to expect, say 100 people to click on the ad. Of the 100 people who come to your website through the ad, what percentage of those are going to actually fill out a form? And then of those people who fill out the form, what percentage of those people actually have some actionable intelligence on a potential deal?
I've heard a pretty good ratio. At least this is for online stuff only. I think all of these methods have different.
Well, I want to know what you're
experiencing.
Numbers.
Oh, sure. So say I get
100.
Yeah. Say I get 100. Out of that, I will get maybe 20 people filling out the form. And then from that, I'll follow up with them. A lot of those people actually kind of drop off the map. You can follow up with them every day and they'll never call you back. But out of that, you've got, 5 solid leads. And ideally, you can get, 3 out of that are actually actionable that you can get under contract for a good rate. So, you're looking at probably 1 to 3% of your clicks that might actually get you good results.
And what are you personally paying for a click usually? I mean, I know you said it varies, but what do you usually
Sure. I focus a lot on the long tail end, so I pay less than a lot of people. Normally it varies between about $1 or $2. It's also cheaper in West Michigan than it is in California, I imagine.
So say the high end, it's $2 times 100, it's $200 to acquire, 1 to 3 leads essentially.
Sure. Yep.
Cool. That's not bad.
That's not bad at all. I was surprised at the success, honestly. Before, I thought it would take 1 million clicks to get any leads, but once you start getting at it and refining things a little bit, you can have success.
Yeah. Okay. I've been doing, like I said earlier, I've been doing Facebook marketing just a little bit, kind of playing with it.
Sure.
Because I enjoy that stuff a lot. So what I've been doing is I've had like $5 a day, and my ad just says like, I live in Grays Harbor County, so I say like,
sure.
Live in Grays Harbor ? And then a little picture. I have a little picture of the Aberdeen sign, which has like Kurt Cobain's "Come as You Are" phrase on it, and it says,
"Oh yeah,
do you looking to sell your house quickly, close in whatever." I think I have like 7 days cash for your house, whatever it says. Anyway,
sure.
And I've had like in the past week, I'm looking at it right now. In the past week, I've had 161 clicks, averaging 40 cents a click. Granted, a lot of people see that, like, they're like, there's a local ad on Facebook. They're going to click it just because it's some, like,
they know. Yeah.
They know. So so the clicks are cheaper than you get on Google, but it's also not as targeted. And out of those 161 clicks I've had, I think 4 or 5 phone calls and 4 or 5 like website submissions. And looked at a couple. I mean, just kind of casually looked at, nothing like solid yet. But anyway, those are just my numbers.
Yeah. I mean, I'd say overall, it's a pretty low cost, but across all marketing, I'd say each lead is probably between $20 and $25 per lead, generally, across all my marketing, which is, solid lead, not like fluff,
Yep. Yep. That makes sense. I'd probably agree with that quite a bit with mine on some. Cool.
Sure.
Cool. All right. Well, let's. So we talked about AdWords, a little bit about Facebook. Let's go to direct mail. So how many letters are you sending out? Like what kind of response rates are you getting?
I actually am very happy with the response rate that I get here. It's between 15 and 20%.
Wow. Wow. That's really good.
That's on your direct mail mailers?
On direct mail mailers, yep.
So how are you getting that? I mean, because most people say 5% or even 1% is good.
Would be great, yeah. The highest that I ever got was when I was sitting down and handwriting letters, and I would write 10 to 20 to 30 letters a day, depending on the day. Mail them up, first class mail, and mailing them out. Now I've gone to a printing method. I'm not sure if I should plug away all my secrets, but
there's no secrets.
There's no secrets. It's actually I use Jerry Puckett here, and I found him on BiggerPockets actually, and he does a lot of the printing. Yeah, so he'll print those up, then he mails them to me, and then I will it's a small envelope. I use a first class stamp, and it's a letter, and it is printed off of a computer, but it looks like a handwritten style, if that makes sense. It's not a computer font. It's like a handwriting kind of font.
Yeah.
And the list that I've been using is from ListSource. and I focus a lot on absentee owners around the bigger cities that are around.
Right on. So that's been the most effective. The most effective was the handwritten, and you've moved over to the printing of the
which
handwritten.
I think was a good decision because I just ran out of time to do that. I just did not have enough hours in the day.
So how much mail are you putting out now? Every week, month, whatever it is.
Sure. I've actually paused. Jerry could probably say he's probably going to send me an email after this podcast saying the next one's due up. But
you owe me money.
When I was doing it, I actually started small with only about 300 a month, give or take. And that was enough to keep my pipeline full through that method, which was pretty remarkable. I know listening to Justin, he sends out, many more than that to get those same results. So I feel like I might just be in a lucky pocket here in Michigan.
Yeah, makes sense. Well, cool. So direct mail, Google AdWords. I mean, are you doing anything else? Do you, have a car sticker on your car or anything like that?
I don't have a sticker on my car, but I do signs. I do yard signs. Some people call them bandit signs. It's okay. So I do that. It works. And I've sort of figured out the areas where they're okay with it and the areas where they're not okay with it.
Let's talk about that, Brandon.
Yeah, sure.
So them being okay with it being the places where it's legal to place them.
Exactly. That's the more technical way where it's actually legal to put these up and where it is not legal to put those up. So obviously, in sitting with everything else that I do, if it's not legal or not good, I'm not going to do it. I'm gonna pull them down. But they do work.
So in terms of finding out where it's kosher, how does one do that? Do you just call the city and say, hey, I want to do some marketing and this is one of the things I want to do? What do you do?
Yes, that's a good first step. Is you go and then you tell people and say, hey, this is what I want to do. Is this okay? A lot of times, a lot of responses I have is if it's okay with the property owner, it's okay with us. So then it's another follow-up call to wherever you're going to put it, saying, hey, is this okay if I put a sign here? Sometimes you'll float them a few dollars and then they're okay with it. Other people say, who are you? Get away from me. I never want to hear from you again. When you follow up with them. And even with that, you put them down and you get all the permission in the world. And sometimes they'll come back through and say, hey, this isn't allowed. And you're like, well, I talked to this person and this person and this person. They said it was fine. But once, if that happens and somebody says, hey, don't put it here, then I stop.
Yeah. So you're, instead of putting it on right of ways and street corners, you're focusing on putting them on people's actual property versus city property.
Or, even with that, even a store, a local store, there's a lot of local stores here in West Michigan. It's not all chains all over the place. And you try to do it a little bit targeted where, a local Ace Hardware might be fine with it. And so you try to, do it a little bit more focused where, if somebody's going to work on their house, they're going to be going to a hardware store.
Yep.
So getting it there, is a good thing. It's a good area to shoot for.
Yeah. And let me just put this out for everyone listening. We at BiggerPockets are pretty big advocates of doing things the right way and doing them legally. If you go out and you start hammering neighborhoods with bandit signs, illegally, you're just making a bad image for yourself. Personally, I hate bandit signs. I don't think anyone should use them. I think, I really think they litter neighborhoods. I think they're awful. But I'm going to say, if you're thinking about it, make sure you do it and legally.
Do it the right way.
Do it the right way. If you're not, I don't know. I get a lot of people who don't like me because of my position on these things, but I think there's plenty of other credible ways to market than to go out and illegally post up signs and say, hey, how do I put up a sign so people don't take them down? Well, they're taking them down because you're doing it the wrong way. You're breaking the law. Don't put them up. How do I get a fake number to do this? Well, if you need a fake number, something's wrong with what you're doing.
Probably not. Yeah, and I completely agree with that. That's why I said lawn signs at first, because the way that I do it, they're not bandit signs because they're okay in those areas. And it's a big thing. In this particular area, in these particular markets, they are not uncommon for any number of services, from excavating. We do siding, all kinds of things use it in this particular area.
Yeah. Right on. Any other strategies, or is that pretty much the...
I do networking. I've found leads and deals through BiggerPockets, so definitely do that.
Nice.
Follow up with people. Hey, I've got a lead in this state. I've thrown deals out to other people that other people have jumped on, and I've accepted deals from others. So BiggerPockets is an excellent networking source. I've used it a lot. I do a lot of similar networking at local real estate investor meetings. And that's good. That generates a lot of leads. And then I do other things like Craigslist and stuff like that too.
Cool. All right. Well, let's move on to, why don't we talk about cash buyers a little bit? Because you said you wholesale some deals. You already talked about earlier how you found the one. Do you have another good method, or what should people be looking for when they want to know how to wholesale a deal to somebody?
Sure. I think a big thing to remember about cash buyers are that you don't need a million of them to have a successful business with wholesaling. Generally, I've found that just a few solid people is really what you need to keep your lifeblood flowing in that area.
Yep.
So my style is, I know some people, and maybe these methods work great for them, but they'll find a lot of houses, get them all under contract, and then shoot them out to a million and a half people, and it's a big list of 20 homes or something like that. With me, what I do is I do a lot of talking to people, sitting down, having coffee, figuring out really what they want. So that could be, I like this street, I don't like that street. This is my price range. I want 3 bedrooms only, never 2. And so whenever I find a house, then my job is to, gather that information that I know about the people I've met and say, hey, this person is looking for a house. It does fit this. And then I'll put together a really customized package for one specific buyer, rather than a big blast style.
Yep.
Yeah.
So I think that's a little differently than some people do it.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a smart way to do it. You basically build a database and establish a set of criteria and pretty much list who wants what. And if something comes in that matches, person A through G, then you send it to A through G, and you don't need to send it to everybody. There's no reason to waste your time and energy on it.
Yeah. And I think that's the big thing. Finding cash buyers for me has been a long and slow process. It's really developing relationships. I think that's the big key. If somebody, if you're able to work with someone that you can trust on either end, either they trust me, I trust them, then you can get a lot of things done. But that's going to these meetings, sitting down with people, having real honest conversations without, fluff, being honest about what you're doing and why you're doing it. All of those things make such a huge difference in the end.
Yeah. Now, listen, there's lots of approaches. There's no right one. There's no wrong one.
Oh, absolutely.
You just kind of got to go with what works for you. And it sounds like you've got some good ideas here. So how do you decide, you find a property, how do you decide what you're going, if you're going to flip it or wholesale it? It'd be easy to wholesale, but maybe I should flip this one and go for a little more money. I mean, how does that process work for you?
That process is definitely on a case-by-case basis. This is actually where we're getting into one of the weaknesses of where I am at right now. Is when I first started, I just sort of jumped in and said, okay, just get things done. Methodology, systems, who needs those? Just go. And so I am now running into the problems with the just go method.
Yep.
For instance, right now, if another deal crossed my desk that was even a great flip, I would have to say, okay, I just can't take on another project right now. I have overloaded myself.
Yep.
And so for me, it's right now, it's not a perfect answer, but it's a debate between, okay, how much, using a computer term, how much bandwidth do I have to actually handle this project? Do I have, where are my contractors at, et cetera, et cetera. In the future, what I would like to do is just have a system going. Okay, all right, well, I've got 3 deals going right now. That's my max. Time to wholesale them. I also, if it looks like it's better as a rental, I just go straight to wholesaling those, because rentals and property management and that kind of thing is not something that I'm doing at this time. Not yet.
Do you want to get into that eventually?
I do. I know that it's a really good piece of advice, actually. Just jump into the thing that you want to be doing eventually. I think several good, reliable posters have said that. Seems like really good advice. But with me, being able to do this as a job for now, while learning a lot about houses and getting into that eventually, seems like a really good middle ground. So
Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you're at this position of scale, right? You're
Yes.
at the, hey, I could handle things kind of on my own, but if
Right.
it's and if there's any kind of scalability that's required, I'm in trouble. So
yes.
it seems to us, well, it seems to me, we are the Queen of England.
the royal we. Yes.
The royal we. No, it seems to me that you're probably at that point where it's time to kind of hunker down and focus on how to build the systems for yourself and how to get those team players into place to get you to that next step. And so what is it like? Because I think we've talked to a lot of guys who were, hey, I'm getting 1 and 2 deals. That's awesome. And we've talked to a ton of guys who've said, hey, I've got my systems. Yep. I don't think we've actually talked to anyone who's where you are, which is I'm stuck. I can't kind of get to that. Well, I'm not saying that you said that, but yeah. I can't get to that next deal because I really don't know. I'm not saying you don't know how to scale, but I'm at the point where I haven't started to. So what is that? What is that like, and what's kind of going through your head right now as you're facing that?
Well, for me, it was an epiphany moment as I was working on this rehab that I'm doing right now. I'm sitting there painting trim, and it's an old house. It's 100 years old, and we're working on this thing, and I'm thinking, I am so wasting time right now. This is not what I should be doing. This is not efficient at all. And so this epiphany moment for me, and then saying, okay, well, in that case, what does it look like? So doing the first ones, it was like, okay, what I want to do is make, basically the top dollar possible. And what that means is me personally doing as much as I can with every deal. If I can lay floor, I'm going to lay floor. If I can finish drywall, I'm going to finish that. So now I have to look at it as, okay, what am I actually good at? What are my real strengths? And how do I bring in people efficiently that can do the stuff better? There are absolutely people that can lay floor faster and easier than me. Painting, even outsourcing the direct mail that I mentioned. I mean, that was a huge help. So it's basically taking these little pieces and fitting them into a system that works. So I've started doing little things, but that's definitely the next step of the growth, is saying, okay, where do I pull myself out of this system? Because the less that I'm in it every day, the more that the overall system can succeed.
What's interesting? As I sit here, I think about my own business. I think about BiggerPockets, and I think about this show. And granted, a lot of this show is very, very specific to real estate, but we are, we being the audience and we being the folks that we're interviewing, we're all kind of small business people, right? We're all
sure.
Every real estate investor is a small business person. Every real estate agent is a small business person.
Absolutely.
And everybody kind of faces the same issues in terms of really figuring out where they are, where their company is, and what they're good at, what they're not good at, who to put into place.
I think that I read this book probably 6 years ago, and I've read it a couple times since. It's The E-Myth Revisited by Michael Gerber.
Yep.
And it's a really good book that talks about exactly this thing. Essentially, you're working in your business instead of working on your business. Yeah. And basically, you're baking the pies instead of creating the system so the pies can get baked without you being there.
Stop painting trim.
Yep. Exactly. Stop painting trim. It's not a good use of your time,
Are you yelling at me?
No, I'm yelling.
No, I was actually going to say stop climbing on the windowsill and putting.
Yes, thank you, Ben Leibovich. Thank
in
you.
the rain. Yeah. No,
Ben,
I should probably reread that book just to remind myself.
Yeah, that's actually one of those books I think you should reread every year. Kind of like I say, like reread Rich Dad Poor Dad every year.
Oh,
and like reread E-Myth every year. I think you just got to be reminded of those things.
Yeah, that's a great.
Yeah, cool. All right, well, hey, why don't we? Actually, no. I have to ask one more question before we go to the fire round.
Sure.
But that question is, I ask every single person pretty much who does rehabs. How are you finding good contractors?
References, all references. I also use Angie's List. If you guys have heard of that, it's a super cheap subscription service. They have lots of. If you're stuck. You ask around your local real estate club and you just got no idea, I'd recommend going there. But my best successes come from, hey, I use this guy. I know this guy. He's really good. Yeah. That's both online and in person. But getting a reference is pretty much the end all be all for me.
You know, I was just thinking, like, based on that, I've never actually done this, but I'm going to do it today, is just go put on my Facebook wall, hey, does anybody have a good recommendation for a plumber in Grace Harbor? I'll just write that.
Definitely.
I'll report back next week on what I find.
Yeah,
we'll see if that works.
Oh boy, I'm super excited.
I'll let
Can't
you know.
wait to find out.
I know. We got to keep people,
update.
Yes. All right. Now we're officially moving to the.
It's time for the fire round.
The fire round, these questions all come from the BiggerPockets forums, which you can get to at biggerpockets.com/forums. Fancy. All right. Number 1, I'm a college graduate, just got out of college, looking for my first investment. How should I get started?
For your first investment, I would say try to find somebody that has done the kind of investment that interests you the most. Talk to that person, find the pros, find the cons, see if after actually digging in a little bit, it's what you do want to do. If you find out that it is, try to get good help. On my first one, my friend that I partnered with had already been a landlord for a while. He already knew a lot about these basic house fixes and things to do and things to look for. And so getting people smarter than you around you is a very, very good thing.
Yep.
Good.
Yep. And you know, that again can be applied to pretty much every component of business.
Absolutely. I am not that smart, and I will take all the help I can get.
There you go. There you go. Well, at least you admit it.
Hey. Yeah, we all know our weaknesses, right?
Exactly.
There you go.
Exactly. All right, cool. So when wholesaling properties off the MLS, how do you get around the 60-day hold requirement that some banks have? You know, have you run into this yet?
I can't actually speak to this because I have never wholesaled a property off of the MLS. I have only worked with sellers directly, so I've never wholesaled a property off the MLS. So I couldn't tell you one way or another.
Have you bought? I'll kind of adjust the question then. Have you bought any have you bought any properties off the MLS for your investing?
No, I have not. Actually,
okay, let me ask another
market.
question. All right. Have all these been pretty much direct deals with the seller, or are you working with real estate agents as go-betweens?
Directly with the seller. I think that this is something that I will work on and add to the repertoire is working more with real estate agents. I love real estate agents. They're great.
Yeah. So you've never bought through an agent. Presumably you've sold through agents.
I have sold through agents. Yes, I have never bought through an agent. So I think
fascinating.
I think that's another really good next step for me.
Wow, that's pretty impressive to go that many deals without having to purchase through an agent. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah,
impressive. It's something anyway.
It's something. I don't know what. Whatever.
Well, it just shows that there's a lot of ways. I've hardly bought in any properties that were not MLS. Almost everything I've done, flipping or wholesaling or multifamily, have almost all been MLS. There's been a couple direct sellers, but not many. So it just shows there's different ways to do it, and you can succeed at either one. So
exactly.
What's good in your market, and what are you good at? So. All right, next, how would you suggest finding a credible wholesaler that understands leaving some meat on the bone for rehab buyers?
It's a good question. I like that.
Yeah.
That is an excellent question. I've both worked with other wholesalers and wholesale deals myself. A big part of it is relationships. Again, to me, it's all about that. Finding somebody who is not going to just try to suck every dollar out of the deal. I've been on both sides. I've been on the rehab side. I've been on the wholesaling side. So for me, it's just talking to people and really analyzing a deal and saying, if it's too high, it's saying like, all right, dude, what are you looking at here? Like, can you get this any lower? Because these are where my numbers are at. Here's where I'd be comfortable with it. I don't know what you actually have it under contract for. And if you get somebody who's constantly just trying to peg you as high as possible, that's not somebody I'd want to work with long term.
Yep.
So, I mean, in some cases, it's just that's as low as the seller would go. And that's the deal, and it's just no deal. But if you've really got a guy that's trying to milk you, it's kind of like, I don't really know.
Yep. Yep.
Cool.
All right. Cool. Last question is, how would you suggest someone get rid of the smell of cigarette smoke? You dealt with that on your first deal. What do you need to do?
Excellent. Rip out all the carpet and the pad. Absolutely. Get it out of there day one. That was the first thing we did, and that removed 75% of the smell, probably. After that, you'll want to use something like Kills, a latex-based paint that's specifically made as an odor killer. You're going to have to do a lot. You or somebody else, and getting these systems going, will have to do a lot of washing and scrubbing for anything that you want to keep. Say you want to keep the cabinets or something, you're going to spend a lot of time on those cabinets because that smoke is just going to seep in everywhere. So get professional grade cleaning products. Talk to people. The cheap stuff is not going to help, and you're just going to want to run your head into the wall. Also, open the windows. Keep the windows open as much as you can. Run fans all day. And at some point, it's just a time battle. You keep doing this stuff over and over again. But if you keep it all flowing, then eventually it'll go.
All right. So I've got a probably what's a stupid question because I've never had to clean a house out of cigarette smell. Say I would presume, say I started in the kitchen, cleaning the kitchen, right?
Yep.
Well, we get all the carpets out of the house. That's the quick and easy. But every other room still stinks, even the rooms that you pulled this out of. My assumption is you start in one room, and as you kind of clear the stank out of that room, do you have to kind of seal it off so the smell doesn't, leach back in and get all over everything? Or is it almost feels like it'd be this never-ending battle, or is it just, little by little, as long as you've got kind of the air flowing constantly, you're okay?
To me, it's a little by little. Unless you are able to create a vacuum seal somehow, it's air. I mean, it's gonna get there and it's gonna get in. So you just do the best you can and keep at it.
I've always found that
we couldn't seal it off. I mean, we're scrubbing the walls and it looks like coffee running down the wall. I mean, it's disgusting. Yeah,
I think like 99% of the smell comes from the walls anyway. I mean, like obviously the carpet, but it's not in the air as much as it's on things. So if you get it off of things.
Deep scrubs.
Deep scrub.
Magic eraser is a great.
Yeah, it is. That is a good. That works well for things. Yeah. They have that little. Have you used that yet, Josh? Little magic eraser. It's like, I don't know.
Mr. Clean.
Yeah, I don't.
I don't know if you clean, but
I know what magic.
You've got kids though who would draw crayons on the walls.
My kids don't.
Your kids don't do that.
They're not savages. They don't draw crayons on the walls. No. There's
every rental I have ever been in has crayons on the wall. I assume every kid does that.
My point is no, I'm kidding. But no, listen, my kids don't draw on the walls because we put the fear of God into them. So yeah.
All right, nice. All right, well, hey, let's move on to the final section of the show, which we like to call the Famous Four. All right, the Famous Four. These are questions we ask everybody on the show, so you know what they are, and I'm going to throw them right at you. First one, what is your favorite real estate book?
This one is a really hard one. I read a lot of real estate books. My current favorite is Flip. It's part of the Millionaire Real Estate Investor series. It's Clay Villani and Davis, and Gary Keller, of course, is involved. That one is very good. I want to next up on my reading list is actually the one by Jay Scott. I'm sure I'm going to get a lot from that one too. So those books that are really nitty gritty detail. Those were really big helps for me. I mean, there's a million and one good ones, but
cool.
Right on. What about your favorite business book, non-real estate?
Non-real estate. Well, my favorite non-anything book is probably Lord of the Rings, which is awesome. But more in
Nerd
this.
alert.
Yeah. I am a hard nerd. You don't have to worry about that one. The is actually not even a book. I mentioned it earlier. It's Lead the Field by Earl Nightingale. It's a really good. It's a series of audio tapes. Actually, it's recorded, I think, back in the 80s. It's really just about your outset and your look on life. And it's really good. I probably listen to that one at least once a year.
Nice. I'll have to look for that on Amazon, and I'll put a link to those in the show notes at biggerpockets.com/show69. And Josh, next question.
Yeah. What about hobbies? What do you do for fun?
I do a lot of things for fun. I'm a lacrosse coach in high school.
Cool.
Lacrosse coach. That's great. We actually have a game today.
Nice.
Good
luck.
Maybe you'll tell us next week how the score went. and
No,
then you can tell me how your
okay.
teeth brushing went.
I feel like I'm getting made fun of here. Is anybody else noticing that? I don't know.
No, not at all. It's ridiculous. So other than that, I really love to travel. Travel, seeing friends. My friends are scattered all around the country. I love to travel. I like games of all kind, board games, video games. Like I said, giant nerd alert. And I really like
Dungeons and Dragons.
I actually haven't gotten into that, but I hear it's a lot of fun.
He's not that nerdy, Josh. Come on.
We did have one of our guests as a Dungeons and Dragons fan. I think it was Dawn.
Was it?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I think.
I think it
I
was.
hear it's a ton of fun.
I played it when I was younger.
That explains a lot. Anyway, so
it's a game.
Games.
Lots of cool stuff.
Cool. All right. Final question from me. What do you believe sets apart successful real estate investors from those who never get started or fail?
To me, I thought about this. I figure you guys had your famous four, so I could throw mine out here. At the same time, I tried to boil it down to one, and I couldn't. So, the four elements. The first one that I really see is courage, which is your ability to act in spite of fear. Even if you're afraid, you can still move forward. The next is knowledge, figuring out what to do and when to do it. You can be as courageous as you want, but if you run straight into a swamp, you're not gonna, or some quicksand, you're not gonna get out too fast. Really important one is persistence, just keeping at it, even though it seems like you just want to quit. Like I've had that experience several times. And then the last element, probably the most important one, is just faith. Knowing that as rough as this gets, if you can focus on it and keep driving towards it, faith that you will ultimately accomplish your goal.
Cool.
There you go.
Well said. Well said.
Nice. Well, cool, man. So before we let you go, where can people find more information about you, link up with you?
Excellent. The BiggerPockets profile, I love that. I use it all the time. So shoot me a message, things like that. My company's website is thehoneybeehomes.com, THE at the beginning. Honeybeehomes.com is, I think, some realtor in Texas. That is not me.
Nice.
So my picture's right on there, so it shouldn't be too hard to find. So that's my website, and my email address is my first name, Brandon, at thehoneybeehomes.com. And any lunch, calls, Skype dates, whatever, no big deal. I like talking to people.
You're going to regret that.
Yeah, you are going to regret that, by the way. But okay. Listen, hey, it's all good, man. It's all good. The 24,000 people listening to the show might all decide to no.
Yeah.
Do not everybody inundate Brandon with email just for fun. All right, man. Well, listen, it's been a pleasure. Really enjoyed listening to you and hearing about your story, and hopefully folks learned a thing or two from you. Of course, this is show 69 of the BiggerPockets podcast, and anyone listening can check out the show notes at biggerpockets.com/show69, where they can ask Brandon, not Turner, but Mr. Brandon Krieg here, questions that they've got about today's interview. And otherwise, listen, that's really it. If you're listening to the shows and you're not yet connecting with us on BiggerPockets, please jump on the forums, get involved, get engaged. The more you do that, the better you feel. I don't know. Just get involved in the community. I think you'll find a lot of value in doing that. Otherwise, again, you can follow us on Twitter, Facebook, G+, and all the usual major social networks. And get out there, make things happen, guys. Network, connect, interact, learn, and be successful, and share your stories with the rest of us. And let's all help each other thrive. So thank you for listening, and we'll see you next week at show 70 of the BiggerPockets podcast. Thanks so much. I'm Josh Dorkin, signing off.
You're listening to BiggerPockets Radio, simplifying real estate for investors large and small. If you're here looking to learn about real estate investing without all the hype, you're in the right place. Be sure to join the millions of others who have benefited from BiggerPockets.com, your home for real estate investing online.